Hello, and a good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session. We're joined today by Heriot University again, but we're talking about an MSc in Biomedical Engineering, which is set to be a highly engaging session. If you have any questions or have any concerns or issues surrounding this session, please use the chat facility. We will try and get round to you guys, or if you could just pop it in the Q&A, we'll endeavour to get round to your questions as quickly as possible, but there will be a Q&A session allocated at the end of the 45 minutes. I'd like to hand you over to Michael and Lucia. Michael to begin with, who's going to be narrating and presenting away. I will be back for the Q&A towards the end, and if you have any questions, please let me know. But Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Crichton. I'm an associate professor in biomedical engineering at Heriot University, and I'm joined by one of my colleagues who's been developing this from Edinburgh University, Dr. Lucia Bandera. Together, we'll look to try and give you a talk through our joint program in biomedical engineering, which we're really excited about and that we're launching this year. The program's a really interesting one because it's split between two universities. We have what I would say is the best of both worlds in terms of not just Edinburgh, not just Heriot Watt, but actually bringing together a lot of complementary expertise. So the program directors are drawn from both universities. So Lucia, myself, Professor Maiwen Sodekoras, and Professor Adam Stokes. We've got a lot of background ourselves within biomedical engineering. So you can see here that there's the expertise is quite diverse. Medical devices, in vitro diagnostics, bioengineering, robotics, that type of thing. So there's certainly lots of different aspects that we're looking to bring. And when we've been putting together the program, we've really tried to draw on what we see as the future in terms of what industry is going to need, what research is going to need, and how we can actually improve health and well-being as a result of bringing engineering into the biomedical sphere. So when we put together this MSc, really had a look around and we're looking at what's available and what type of skills you might want to have when you come out. So in terms of the objectives of our MSc in particular, is to try and say, well, we recognize that the world is moving towards a much more interdisciplinary way of working when it comes to medical progress, clinical needs. There's not just the expectation where we work in silos or we work in small areas together, but instead we actually look to try and bridge different areas and bring disciplines together. And this is what we're seeing both in funding, both in industry and also in academia. So we want to bring these together, look at the biggest challenges in medicine, some of the smaller challenges as well. We want to try and broaden expertise and provide knowledge in the areas of medical devices. We want to make sure that design, manufacture, development, and integration of medical technologies is something that you can be aware of to understand how things are made, how they're developed, and how they're deployed in the clinic. And ultimately, it's understanding the ecosystem in which these sit. So often medical technologies don't just sit within just going straight into a GP's office, for example, a physician's office. Often biomedical devices will have to sit in an environment where you have medical physics, you have a regulatory landscape, you have political influence, you have essentially a range of different funders. You may have insurers, you may have government bodies, procurement, things like this. So it's a very complex area, but that means that there's a lot of opportunity to actually understand the ecosystem. So that's what we're looking to do in this program. Now, we've partnered for this program. So Heriot Watt University has joined with the University of Edinburgh to partner in this program. We put together a range of courses from both universities and developed some new ones. And I think we've got an excellent history of working together. So ultimately, Heriot Watt University was the first mechanics institute in the world. So really, we have a very, very strong reputation rooted in engineering and physical sciences. So from that, we've developed a lot of expertise in sensing, photonics, tissues, a lot of medical device development, and this is an area where we're investing heavily. The University of Edinburgh, obviously, is a hugely reputable institution, has a huge background within Scotland, and its medical school is almost 300 years old. So you can see that it's not we're not working from an area of of new research. In terms of expertise, Lucia will be able to talk a little bit about this a little bit later, but ultimately, sensing, bioengineering, bioelectronics are the key areas in which this program draws. So very exciting bringing those together. And if you're not aware of the geography in which we sit, Heriot University sits on the edge of Edinburgh. We have a large green campus with lots of lots of different facilities. Edinburgh University has its main campuses in the centre of Edinburgh, but has its engineering campus in the King's buildings, which are a little bit further out, and its medical school is further out, further across here. The work that you would likely to be doing, or the courses that you will be taking, will be split between the universities, although we should hasten to add that we're putting a lot of work into ensuring that the timetables are such that you won't have to be traveling across the town on any given day. The good news is that Edinburgh is quite a compact city. It's got a lot of great transport links, and to that extent, it's quite a good city to be able to retain to live centrally and enjoy the benefits of Scotland as a city to live in, which is a fantastic place for students, but then also to be able to reach these two highly renowned universities. If we look at the student cohort, realistically, we're looking uh, at students who are coming from a variety of different backgrounds. We are taking, at this point, people who are more from an engineering and physical sciences background. The reason for this being that the work is essentially going to be focused on building on the engineering skills that you would have within your undergraduate degree. And this is something that we're looking to effectively exploit the expertise that you have already. If you have a background that's different, if you have a background where you have, for example, an undergraduate degree in something that isn't covered on that list, for example, if you had a civil engineering background or a background in chemistry, and you're interested in coming and joining our MSc in biomedical engineering, please do get in touch. You can still contact the admissions team, and they'll be able to follow on any background or any information to us, and we can look at what your background is and try and understand whether you would be likely to succeed on the program. Ultimately, our excitement and our enthusiasm is to make sure that you have success on the program, because we want the program to be successful, we want you to be successful, and we want to ensure that in the end we have a cohort of students that are really well prepared for the future as a result of this. So we're taking an approach from the universities that essentially is the approach that we take when we're doing any program, but particularly for this program, we realize that there's a need for multidisciplinary work. It's really important to have cross-discipline, as I mentioned, but we want to understand not just patient perspectives, for example, when it comes to technologies, but patient perspectives globally. We know that that people have hugely diverse backgrounds, and we know that the experience of medical technologies is massively different depending upon where you live, what your heritage is, what your cultural aspects may be. And this is something that we're looking to embed within the program. We don't just want to develop devices that are suitable for one population. We want to think about how is our program going to serve those coming from diverse backgrounds, and how do we ensure that we actually deliver what's needed. Now, Heriot University and Edinburgh University both have a fantastic background in working with students from all over the world. We have collaborations, we have partners, we have networks globally. Heriot University has a campus in Dubai and a campus in Malaysia. And in addition to that, we draw international students from all over the world. So you're in a community where you will be exposed to people who have these different perspectives, and really we want to be able to take advantage of those to make sure that the program we're delivering takes stock of the differences globally. And for biomedical devices, this is particularly important. So ultimately, we're looking at how do we make sure that we deliver something that has impact, and this program, I think, will deliver this. In terms of the teaching, we try and stay up to date with our teaching. So we obviously have a standard mix of lectures, seminars, tutorials. We have laboratory demonstrations and practical exercises, but we also have a lot of visitors coming in from industry that will look to provide topics or that essentially are current within their field. These are individuals who can speak to what's happening at the moment, and we try and make sure that any of the teaching we have has, for example, assessment, which is based upon the best practices that are currently pedagogically relevant and being developed. So really, we're talking about very good facilities. We have in any course, we have an online, basically our virtual learning environment, in addition to our in-person experiences that come through lectures, tutorials, and so on. We sit within an ecosystem where, because obviously we want to talk about the expertise that comes through biomedical education, we want to make sure that you have an understanding of where we sit within the ecosystem. Now, Edinburgh University Edinburgh has several universities, all of which have some alignment or some focus to biomedical engineering. So obviously Heriot University and the University of Edinburgh are the key partners within this program, but we do have the ability to go and visit and test ideas and work with facilities that are more broadly distributed across Edinburgh. We also have links and connections within our National Health Service, which is a fantastic resource to be able to get feedback from clinicians. If I turn to the structure of the program, we've split the program into mandatory and optional courses. And the reason that we do this is because we wanted to make sure that you had some choice when when we were developing the program. Now, here you can see that there's Heriot University courses and there's University of Edinburgh courses. This is a development where essentially we will have inputs and the program will be run by both universities, although obviously some of the courses will be based in different sites to make sure that we can exploit the expertise that we have. So within semester 1 and 2, well, actually through the whole year, so semester 1 starts in September for this program, we have our mandatory courses, and really what we're trying to do is ensure that you have the key grounding for what we think is core in not just biomedical engineering, but also understanding how you engage in an ecosystem of biomedical engineering. So that's where the technology entrepreneurship comes, and I'll talk about the specific courses shortly. And then you work on to the dissertations at the end of the taught material. In terms of the optional courses, we have two paths. So you can either take a path which is focused more on bioelectronics or more on manufacturing. These two themes, you can see they're split depending upon, well, delivered by the two different universities. And this is really drawing on the expertise that we have within the disciplines and within the course teams that we have available. So you can choose which theme that you take, and obviously we'll look to support you on that journey. Unfortunately, we don't do mix and match, and that's part of the reason for that is just to ensure that we can deliver the courses and the modules in a way that ensures that you have consistency of learning. So some of these lead into each other, and other ones are quite complementary. So we have these two optional streams. Ultimately, whichever one you take, you will have the core grounding through the mandatory courses, but it may be that you have a stronger interest or you think there will be more employability for you in the direction that you would like to go in within a particular area. And we can certainly discuss any aspects related to those. We can discuss whether you wish to take one or the other, or why you may have a particular path in mind that you wish to work with, and we can support you on that. So if I spend a little bit of time going through the courses, the first course, hopefully this isn't too small for everyone, the engineering biology interfaces is really the starting point. So many people will come to this program with a background in engineering, which may not include any biological aspects. I know that before I started doing biomedical engineering, I didn't have any biology background, didn't have any medical background. And ultimately, one of the things that would have benefited me a lot was to have an introduction into the anatomy, physiology, and ultimately how the body works within some course. And this is what we're trying to do here. So within the engineering biology interface, we're trying to provide a relatively a relatively brief overview of the anatomy and physiology functions of the body, and then to start to look at what aspects we can measure and how we interface with that body. So whether it's ECG measurements or whether it's taking measurements using biochemistry sensors, or if we're doing some analysis, for example, looking at how the tissues can be interfaced with different types of wearable sensors, this is the sort of key starting point that we have. We look to bring people up to speed with manufacturing. So obviously there's been a huge change in manufacturing over the past decade or so in terms of the availability of 3D printing, the availability of other techniques that are used within manufacturing and prototyping. This is something where ultimately we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and has experience in manufacture, because as we move forward now, we're expecting that ultimately you're going to want to produce concepts, produce designs, and then be able to actually deliver a device. So this helps us do this. One of the sort of key courses that we have running across the full year of the taught program, so from September until May, is the multidisciplinary group project. And this is an opportunity where students will actually be able to apply in practice what they've learned in our programs. So realistically, what we're looking to do is identify clinical problems. So I was talking to a clinician yesterday, for example, who was looking to develop a medical device and was telling me that they didn't know how to do that because that's not their skill set, and they needed people to actually put some effort into understanding the design, the development, the testing, and how that might be used in practice. So we have a lot of clinicians that we work with, and many of them have ideas and potential opportunities that they'd love to explore with us. Now, part of this program, part of this course will be to bring these experts in, to have conversations with them, to understand what they need, then to go and speak to, for example, patients who may actually end up being the users of the device or have the device used on them. We want to understand what type of process a device will go through, what the life cycle will be, and what regulatory aspects may be relevant for that. And we do this with a combination of taught material that we will teach ourselves, guest lectures, and also workshops with experts who work within this space. At the moment, we're talking to somebody who works in medical physics, who's proposing that we run a workshop in this space uh, for students, which I think would be quite exciting, because then it means that you've actually gone through the process with individuals working on a problem that is actually needed and applied within biomedical engineering. So this is a full year course, working in groups, and that way there's an opportunity to split the type of work that you do. Technology entrepreneurship is essentially here because we recognize that we need to not work in silos. And part of the challenge that we have as engineers, as scientists, as people trying to innovate, is that we need to understand where we sit in the big picture and how we actually take a device or an invention from an idea through to delivering that commercially. So this is where we have a fantastic opportunity to draw on the University of Edinburgh's expertise in entrepreneurship, product strategy, and ultimately business development, which will hopefully allow you, if you're interested, to take what work you're doing and progress it further, even beyond the end of the program, or it may allow you to start your own direction. Even if you don't want to go into the entrepreneur pathway, there's a huge amount of benefit that comes from understanding what the different pools are on the products that are being developed that you may be working on in the future. And finally, the last course, which is mandatory, is research methods and analysis. So essentially, in terms of this, we have the dissertation project, which happens over the summer, and to give you the best opportunity to actually get outcomes from that dissertation program course, we want to make sure that you're set up with the skills to undertake your research. So this is about getting you to start your literature review, understanding what the problem is, and you'll have a supervisor who'll be allocated or who you can select either from the University of Edinburgh or from Heriot University, and you will work with them to identify or understand the problem that you'll apply in your dissertation, and then you will, in this course, effectively develop the skills to perform your literature review. And this means that when it comes to doing your dissertation, you're ready. You understand what the problem is, you know where the gap is, you know what methods you're going to use, and this will essentially set you up for a running start. for the dissertation. And in terms of the dissertation, again, apologies for all the text, but the dissertation is essentially your personal research that you're going to do to effectively demonstrate the skills that you've learned and the applications that you have and can work on from this program. So essentially what we're looking to do is to try and ensure that there's a real world problem that's of relevance, either something that's within a research environment from one of our partners, either in Edinburgh University or Heriot Watt, or we also have the option to undertake industry projects within the dissertation, subject to availability. So these are areas where you may wish to think about what you want to research. It may be something where you want to work in a particular area, and generally if you do want to do that, then we can provide links to somebody who works in something or who would be willing to supervise a subject dissertation in that area. So generally over the summer, it's a good time to do it. You work on this full time. It's a time of year when generally the sun's out, blue skies, like in my background here. It happens occasionally in Scotland, so it's certainly a good time to be out and actually working on genuine problems that matter to the next stages of research and development. If I turn now to the optional streams, so the bioelectronics stream, this is Edinburgh University led, and Lucia can certainly talk more about this as if you have questions related to this. But essentially the split is looking at, first of all, how you interact with essentially physiological aspects to develop electronics that can integrate to measure various different things within the body. So it could be biochemical, biophysical, or just measuring these different aspects. The introduction to bioelectronics, it is a high level course, so we're still talking about a course at master's level. We're not talking about an early undergraduate program, and this really brings the concepts of the bio field into electronics, which is quite exciting because there's a lot of quite complex but quite interesting challenges within there. We build on that then with sensors and instrumentation. So we want to think about when we're trying to develop any new technology, generally we would look to, within the medical sphere, understand how that's working. So we want to think about whether we need to instrument a particular piece of technology or whether we need to develop a sensor to measure something. And there are so many different methods that you can use now for measuring things or developing sensors. 20 years ago, we had the early stages of blood sugar meters and things like that for diabetes. Now we have continuous glucose meters and devices that go into the body. We have devices which are effectively MEMS, so microelectrical mechanical systems, transistor-based sensing, a huge array of optical sensing methods. And the question for any type of sensor really is what technique is the best for what we want to measure. And this is a large course that allows you to effectively understand the range of different sensing methods that are available, and then also how they're powered and how that data can be transferred. So this is really a core course which forms the backbone of the bioelectronics stream. The final component here is on lab on a chip technologies. You may have heard about organ on a chip or microfluidics. These are very hot topics in research because there's a potential to start moving away from having to do animal testing and being able to do testing using essentially small chips, small microfluidic chips to be able to take different measurements, understand how cells and different parts of fluids respond, how you can measure different things within those, and essentially how you can accelerate an understanding of what's happening within the body. So this is a really topical area. I think this is a topic that Lucia teaches on, if I'm correct, and is generally one of the most most highly regarded courses, certainly within the engineering discipline at the University of Edinburgh, because it is a hands-on opportunity to understand how you scale down and actually still undertake measurements that are going to be key within the medical sphere. If I switch to the biomanufacture stream, which is Heriot Watt University led and draws on the experience we have, we also want to make sure that we still cover a range of sensing components. So we focus to some extent quite similarly on in terms of the sensing and instrumentation on the other streams, but we want to make sure that we draw on the expertise that we have from our researchers as well. So some of this will be on point of care diagnostics. So for example, things like lateral flow tests or electrochemistry sensors. We want to look at how wearable sensors are embedded and developed, and we want to look towards the future about what we can actually do in terms of transforming these and integrating these in manufactured devices. So these biomanufacture courses are actually, although we call them biomanufacture and bioelectronics, in reality there is some overlap to make sure that you get the core, the sort of core expertise regardless of what discipline you take. If we look towards biomanufacture or biofabrication, essentially one of the challenges we have when we're making and trying to move towards the future is that we want to move away from just doing traditional manufacture using workshop techniques. We're looking towards the future where we're starting to create scaffolds. We're looking to work out how we can grow organs, how we can grow different biological materials. And this is something where the methods that you use for this and the materials that you use become particularly important. So you need to think about how can I create something, for example, that will replace a heart valve. Then you need to understand what cells you might use to make that, what structures you might use to support that, and how you can actually develop this to be something that is useful and quite easily repeatable. That's what biomanufacture. And then the last course is regulation of the safe and sustainable development of substances. This is an important one because although we spend our time looking at manufacturing, one thing that's key to this is actually how safe things are. So we'll touch on regulations and we'll touch on biocompatibility a little bit within the multidisciplinary group project in the mandatory stream. However, this gives you an opportunity to go a bit deeper and understand how substances are considered for safety, a bit of information about toxicology. And in fact, this course is run by our toxicology leads. And effectively, you will work in a cohort with toxicology students on this, so you can actually consider the quality and safety of different medical devices within that. So really, we're trying to not just cover how do you make something, but also how do you make something safe, how do you make it functional, and certainly within the electronics stream as well, how do you make sure it's measuring the right thing. So I think if we look at the overall program shape, you can see that we've tried to go for depth within particular areas, certainly within the optional stream, but also to give you a breadth of expertise that will allow you to hopefully get excited about various different areas and learn about how you can apply different engineering techniques to what are, I think, really very exciting topics. Now, this is the broad program, and in terms of the ecosystem, we are fortunate that we have a master's scholarship or a couple of master's scholarships available. One from the Digital Health and Care Innovation Centre in Scotland, which is to effectively support future leaders within the sector. We have another one, I believe, which I'm not sure if it's been advertised yet. I can confirm that after, which is for an international candidate as well, and we'll um, essentially cover the support for them to be able to attend, which comes through essentially um, donations to Heriot Watt University. So we have an opportunity to provide some support, and this um, can be provided in more details from a recruitment team as well. Now, one question we've been asked is that at the end, what happens? And ultimately, the hopefully the outcome is to have a graduation certificate, and we're looking to create graduates who have a hugely beneficial profile to the future of biomedical engineering industry and research. The final program will effectively be, because it's a joint program, it will be a graduation certificate with both university crests on it. So you will graduate from both Heriot Watt University and the University of Edinburgh. With Heriot Watt University being the lead partner on this program, it will be the Heriot Watt University graduation that you attend. But as it's a joint program, you will have representatives from both both institutions there. And with that, we want to look towards the future. We want to look at what you may be able to do with the expertise that you have. So obviously, we want to make sure that we're developing our graduates to add value. We don't want to just train you in something that you then kind of add to the list of qualifications that you have. We want to train you so that people look to our graduates and say, ah, yeah, this is great because you've got experience in these different areas and you can apply these to real problems in industry. So this may be in regulatory device or device engineering roles. It may be in medical physics. You may want to go into government or charity aspects. And in fact, there's a lot of our former graduates from other disciplines have gone into policy and areas where essentially it's understanding how we shape the regulatory environment. I think one of the big areas we would envisage our students developing further in is in research and development in medical technologies, because these are really areas where you can take the skills that you've learned and applied them. And if you're doing advanced study, then generally it's an opportunity to get aligned into an industry where you're doing some quite exciting stuff. We have an opportunity and obviously look to support those who are interested in entrepreneurship, and both Edinburgh University and Heriot University have entrepreneurial support should you decide during your time that you have an idea that you would like to take further forward and explore, ultimately trying to start a business as well. In terms of the facilities that we have, so both Edinburgh University and Heriot will have a huge array of facilities, and it would take me more than an hour to go through all of these, so I won't spend a huge amount of time doing that. But one thing I will mention is that we have things like immersive suites that can allow us to mimic environments and allow you to essentially test innovations, which will be important during your individual dissertations or within your multidisciplinary group projects. We have labs, we have a range of research labs that you may end up getting involved in. So for example, one of our other program directors, Professor Maiwen Kersadi-Karas, who's on the left there, she recently won a large research grant, which is a collaboration between Edinburgh University and Heriot Watt, among others, essentially to develop microfluidics, which are looking at improving cancer treatments. And this picture is essentially in her lab where she has medical robotics to look at essentially accelerating the throughput of measurements of circulating DNA. We have a variety of measurement techniques and tools within our lab. So this is an instron test, and Chiara, who's shown on the right there, is one of our postdocs who's working on developing essentially better understanding of how cancers display and how you can see cancers within a particular tissue, and then how you can actually take measurements or develop sensors to measure whether or not when you're in surgery you're touching cancerous tissue or not, and that is developed in partnership with a surgical robotics company as well. Again, Edinburgh University and Heriot Watt University linked with the National Health Service as well. And these are the types of programs. So we do have what's called the Edinburgh Research Partnership in Engineering. So we share a lot of our engineering expertise and we work together a lot. And you'll see that a lot of the programs that we have do have a huge number of partners, but are certainly strengthened by our Edinburgh University and Heriot Watt University partners. So this is another large program, a £6 million program, which is looking at delivery of ultraviolet light into the lung to try to detect fibrosis. And you can see that we've got a lot of different partners there, which speaks to the fact that we have a huge, basically a hugely established ecosystem already within this space. Now, the universities have a couple of shared facilities or activities that are developing. One of these is the National Robotarium. So within this facility, there's a range of different robotics labs. There's commercial incubators for startup companies, and the Robotarium is a partnership between Edinburgh University and Heriot Watt University. Professor Adam Stokes, who's one of our program directors from Edinburgh University, is one of the academic co-leads within the National Robotarium. And again, it's an opportunity where within this environment, we have the Assisted Care Living Lab, which is just one example where we're looking to develop technologies which can be used for people when they're in their own home. essentially as they age, how do you make sure that somebody can live their own life in their own home, but still be monitored to ensure that they're safe and have the support they need from a care perspective. Last week, we formally launched Heriot University's Global Research Institute of Health and Care Technologies. This picture is actually taken inside the robotarium, and you may or may not be able to see that we have a robot here, and we also have this is a whale robot, but a robotic whale perhaps, and an incubator space around the side with commercial startup companies. We launched the Research Institute of Health and Care Technologies, where we bring together clinicians and expertise within different academic themes. We look at chronic diseases, cancer, healthy aging, neurodegenerative diseases, mental health, and ultimately the idea of that is that we can apply the skill sets that we have, and that we can bring a range of stakeholders in, so that we can really try and turbocharge the research that we have in this space. So Heriot Watt's invested a lot in this area. The University of Edinburgh has a massive reputation and a huge number of fantastic facilities, including the medical school, that contribute to this as well. And really, it's an area where I think certainly for us, we have a huge enthusiasm for. So we're very excited to be able to welcome you to our program. We have obviously every hope that it will provide a massive benefit to you and be something that will be of interest in the future, and to develop your careers. And we certainly encourage you to effectively ask us any questions that can allow us to provide you more information. So I'm going to finish there, and I'm happy to take any questions. So myself and Lucia are both here, and we also have Sarah, I believe, from the recruitment team. And certainly, before I finish and ask if there's any questions, perhaps I should offer Lucia the chance to add any comments for things from the University of Edinburgh perspective, if I've missed anything.
Thanks, Michael. Wonderful presentation. Good morning, everyone. So a couple of comments, really, because the presentation was quite exhaustive. Just to say that, to reiterate, as Michael was mentioning, that we strongly believe in this program, and it is a program that builds on years of collaborations between Heriot Watt and the University of Edinburgh, and leverages all the complementary expertise that have been developed within the two institutions. And I believe that this program really reflects this diversity and complementarity. Tons of the research that is going on at the University of Edinburgh, specifically within the Institute for Bioengineering, which will contribute to this program, happens in collaboration with companies and with the medical school. So we have a huge drive to try and bring science to the market and to patients. And I look forward to having more people studying in this field. I am just gonna comment on a question that I've been asked a few times in terms of what this partnership means, or means in terms of documentation. Well, it means that, of course, your degree would be jointly awarded by the two universities, as Michael was saying, but also it means that when studying within the program, you will have access to the full facilities to which University of Edinburgh and Heriot Watt students have access to. So for what matters, you will be 100% enrolled in each of the two institutions. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have any about the courses that we deliver specifically.
Lucia and Michael, thank you very much. Michael, thank you first and foremost for taking us through that. I'll let you take a slight breather. It's been quite a long conversation for yourself, which is very nice of you. But I'm sure everyone watching, and there have been quite a few people watching that have been engaged, asking questions. I will now give you guys all the opportunities to pop your questions in the Q&A, but there have been a few come in already, which is great. So I'm just going to fire the questions at both of you, if that's okay, and if whoever you see fit to answer, please do so. The first question I saw come in was, is medicine the same everywhere? If I study in the Middle East, will the education vary from what I've been taught, presumably from an undergrad level into their masters, if they were to move to Scotland, to Heriot Watt and University of Edinburgh, of course?
It's a great question. The simple answer is the medical systems are quite different. The way in which systems are supported is obviously massively diverse. So I was in Dubai a few weeks ago at our campus there, and obviously talking to colleagues there, the system is very much a privatized system supported by insurance. The United States has a majority privatized system. So insurance are the stakeholders there. Within the UK, we have predominantly a national health system. So the simple answer is that the ecosystem in which things sit is very different. The environment in which medicine's performed also has to take account of the various different cultural norms that are available within particular spaces. So it needs to respect how different populations view different conditions, and also needs to consider how you would apply certain things to different populations. So some populations are more susceptible to some conditions than others. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but certainly if I look at things from the perspective of the education that you will get, what we're looking to do is provide a global education where we essentially draw on the expertise of people who have experience across not just local National Health Service clinical expertise, but for example, Mai Wen, who's our other co-director, she's spent a lot of time developing her global frugal I forget the name of it, microfluidics network, which has a large African component, and she's visited a number of countries there. So certainly, in terms of studying in the Middle East, it would be something where we expect you'd be able to apply the learnings very well.
Would that be a benefit then? So from an admissions point of view, if you're a student that has that experience, has that kind of know-how around the world, perhaps, would that be a real, kind of string to their bow, the fact that they have got that experience? Is that something that you would look for, or would it just come on a kind of bespoke one-on-one basis?
I could probably talk for an hour about the medical industry. I'll try not to. The medical industry is a global industry. It is very challenging to take a medical device to market, and it takes a long time because of the regulation that's involved. So if you have a medical device and you're developing it within a company, you want to make sure that you can then sell that and develop that for a large number of populations. This means that ultimately any medical device that's being developed should be considered globally. And I think that's where we would say, in terms of medical technology, we're not looking at small markets, we're looking at a global market. And that's where essentially we'll be trying to encourage our students to think of. So coming from a different background is great because there's an opportunity to draw on the experiences that you have and hopefully strengthen what you're doing in the long term.
Excellent. One of the questions, we got a student here called Annika. Thank you for asking so many questions. I've seen some of the more detailed questions, and now I'm going to try and get through them one by one quickly. So the first question is are there collaboration opportunities with the NHS in the UK or biomedical companies during the dissertation? And do you help with that, hence the careers page that we saw earlier on in your presentation? Or is that off their own back and they need to make those own choices themselves?
So we basically have a range of clinical collaborators that we work with who are based in the National Health Service, many of them, most of them, I think. And from that perspective, we would look to identify or essentially engage with clinicians that we know have enthusiasm on particular areas, and we would look to present projects that would be supported or maybe of interest. There are going to be some courses or some projects that will be very much based on what a student's interest will be with clinical application. There'll be others that may be earlier stage. So a lot of the research we do in biomedical engineering is still quite a long way from getting to the clinic, but is about trying to understand something that could then be translated at a later point. So we need to work with the students and understand what their interests are, and we'll try to present a range of options. And then obviously the students are welcome to go and try and form partnerships as well. But I think in terms of the formal partnerships, the people that we work with, certainly clinicians, tend to be from different NHS trusts across Scotland, certainly my perspective. I don't know if
Super.
Lucia, if you wanted to add more on that.
Yeah, Lucia, can I just give you a follow-up question to that as well?
Absolutely.
One of the questions that came up was, will students have access to resources like libraries and career services at both universities? We saw the Robotorium earlier on, sorry, and that looks incredible. But what is there at Edinburgh that students could almost get dual opportunities from?
Well, the Roboterium is part of the University of Edinburgh as well. So
Of course,
in
yeah.
that sense, they would have access to that as well. We have various research facilities related to of optical nature. So we have a Raman spectroscopy facility. We had facilities for the development of microfluidic devices and their use hosted within the Institute for Bioengineering. And we do have various collaborations. So most of the projects, for example, that I propose to master students are in collaboration with clinicians, just because it makes sense for us to work towards solutions that will work for patients at the onset. Basically, even though it is still a research that will take years before presumably reaching patients. I think you were mentioning a student. The student also asked us if they would have had access to job opportunities within the University of Edinburgh. So in addition to all facilities that are related to teaching, and for example, on campus, we have an entirely new nucleus building, which is entirely devoted to teaching and providing very advanced infrastructure for students. We also have research facilities, and we have a series of services related to the student development towards the job profile that they would like to have after their graduation. And in addition to this, they have, of course, job opportunities within the University of Edinburgh that they can access to.
Excellent. I think one of the key questions that have come in for quite a few students is, what's it like to obviously offer that work education life balance in terms of when you're doing your studies, is a student working? How do they go about that? Is it research opportunities? Is it an internship? All these things. What is it like for a student when they're studying a biomedical engineering degree?
So there are opportunities to develop skills in terms of both research and teaching. Research is basically internships or through research projects, some of which are embedded within the course already. Another type of job that students typically apply for is related to teaching, so that they can build expertise if what they're interested in is to pursue an academic career, for example. And all of these positions are of course, paid for. It's hard for me to comment on what a reasonable workload would be for a student, because of course each of us is different. But I can tell you that at the University of Edinburgh, the University of Edinburgh wouldn't offer jobs for more than 9 hours on average, 9 hours a week to postgraduate students. So I think that is an indication. Of course, in addition to what is feasible in terms of workload and life balance, there are also considerations that are related to the visa restrictions that might apply.
Excellent. One of the questions also coming, and we'll try and get through these. Apologies if we don't get time to answer all the questions. I'm just trying to get through to the ones that I think are probably the most engaging. So this is probably more of an admissions, but to both of you, this will be wholly relevant. There's a student here that's got a science-based degree, and they've developed more engineering skills through personal learning and work, and have an unconditional offer in a different course. Is there a way that they can check by the start of their course that they definitely have all the requirements and the skills needed for this type of course? It's important to point out that the course is open to so many different opportunities now. You hear the word medical and you just think medicine, that's it. Solely that's it. But it is opened up to quite a broad range now, isn't it? And therefore, what would you recommend to a student that's applying? What should they be looking for? What should they ask you?
So I guess the thing is that we want to make sure that when the students join us, they join a group of like-minded individuals who have complementary skill sets, but who will be able to tackle the material together. So from that perspective, we've taken an initial focus on engineering backgrounds. Now, as I mentioned previously, one of the things that we are happy to do is to explore an individual's background. So we have our sort of nominal expectations that if you have an engineering background, you'll be able to handle things because you will have covered a lot of the material that we would expect, the sort of foundational aspects needed for the program. However, I would certainly say that we are certainly open to being contacted either directly or probably more effectively through the recruitment team to ask, you know, I have this background, particularly if you've got expertise in engineering, and if, you know, some people, for example, would love to, you know, they'll be very happy doing a degree in physics, for example, but then will have a hobby doing CAD and 3D printing themselves. So it may be that they have covered a lot of the aspects that we actually need. So for us, it's about confidence they'll be able to undertake the program. We don't want to bring people in who'll struggle because I don't think it serves anybody well. We want to bring people in who are going to thrive, and we'll support those to do that. So reach out to the recruitment team and to us directly, and we can try and support you.
One of the things that strikes me about Heriot Watt, and we've spoken to many Heriot Watt colleagues of yours, and I have no doubt, Lucia, that Edinburgh is probably the same as the career services as well. You know, post-graduation, there's kind of a bit of a hand-holding exercise that goes on in terms of helping any potential graduates out into their next steps of their career, and potentially whether it becomes an alumni of the university respectively, or whatever it might be that they want to do. How important is that to a student that actually you have those opportunities and you've got those connections, whether it be on a national or global scale? Lucia, if I could start with you on that one from an Edinburgh view.
Yes. I mean, I think it's crucial. I mean, we are living in a world that is extremely dynamic, and this sector is one of the most advanced ones in the context. So I think it is a huge opportunity for a student, whether they've already decided how they see themselves in 5 to 10 years' time or not, to engage with a structured system that is able to provide information and guidance to identify what would be their best path forward. I think I know that looking at an MSc program, we have the impression that it's going to be a very long program, but in reality, a year is just going to fly away. So it's good to engage with these opportunities at the earliest chance, and work with people in the sector to understand how we can best leverage our natural talent towards what we would like to become.
And Michael, do you want to follow up on that? Because, you know, I've spoken to many of your colleagues at Heriot Watt, and obviously one of the huge things for them is the career opportunities post-graduation.
Absolutely. So I think probably Lucia's covered the key things. Realistically, we don't sit our degrees in isolation. Our degrees sit within an environment where there's a huge array of services. You know, whether it's the career services or the well-being services, where we ensure that people, if they're struggling with mental health or personal issues, we provide additional support. So all of our degrees come from a basis of support and encouragement for lifelong learning ultimately, and we want our students to thrive and have a fantastic experience with us, and also in the long term to be able to get the best out of their education. So I probably can't add much more than to say, you know, this is not a degree where you come in, you learn, you go away. It's you're performing part of in this case 2 communities, which is a real strength, I think.
Excellent. One of the questions, you know, we've covered quite a few already, you know, around NHS, about collaborations with companies. One of the questions that has come in is, can any student work as a teacher's assistant? If so, what's the process? How does that work? Is it based upon when you apply, or is it when you're actually in doing your education?
I can start on this one. So at least at the University of Edinburgh, you need to apply showing your interest in becoming a tutor and demonstrator. And because of that, application, you undergo training to make sure that the teaching that you will deliver meets the expectations of the university. Once that training has happened, then you will have access to opportunities to which, single opportunities to which you will be able to apply for, and then you will be potentially selected for some of them. So basically, once again, it's not based necessarily on the skills that you have at the start. You don't need to have done teaching in order to deliver teaching, provided that you're willing to grow in that aspect as well. And there are opportunities, for example, to get recognition for that teaching outside of the actual working experience that comes with the activity. For example, recognitions from the higher education, which of course are important for your future career.
Okay, just one more question from me, really. It's been asked, how do I apply? But I think it's important to talk about the metrics of the application at the moment, because there will be plenty of students watching, whether it be now or on demand in the next few weeks or months, might have different circumstances. They might be looking at, let's say, September 2025 we're in now, aren't we? Or January 26th, September 26th. When are your intake dates, and what is the process for applying? I appreciate that might be more of a Sarah question in the background, but Michael, Lucia, if you want to answer to begin with, and obviously Sarah come in at some stage.
So applications are through the Heriot website. Essentially, the Heriot is the I was going to say the lead partner, but essentially the one doing the administrative aspects of the program in terms of acceptance. When it comes to individuals applying, we both partners, both institutions will look at applications and have particularly those who have different backgrounds. We'll look to discuss those amongst ourselves. However, our recruitment team are fantastic and able to understand what it is that we're expecting individuals to do. So essentially, it would be through the Heriot University website. If you had more questions, then you could contact, I think Amy's popped into the chat, the study with us at hw.ac.uk. But generally, the application process is to go through the university, and I think within the website, there's the standard application there, and essentially we will try to get an answer to you. I think we aim for a week. Is that correct, Sarah?
Hi there. So yeah, our current turnaround time, we are roughly 5 days or under at the moment for responding to applicants. We do review, obviously, these ones a little bit more in depth because it goes to 2 universities. So there may be a slight delay in that, but we're definitely on track for a kind of five-day turnaround at the moment. Excellent.
And Sarah, in terms of funding and scholarships, there's always the inevitable questions around what financial aid can I get? What possibility is there that I can get a fully funded course or part funded course? What opportunities are there, and are they automatically applied when they apply?
Yeah, so we have got some scholarship opportunities remain for September this year, and we will have some new scholarship opportunities available for next year as well. Depending on your location, there are different scholarships that we have available. So the best place to contact would be the scholarships team. There is a website as well, which details all of our scholarships on it. Some scholarships are applied automatically. If we have example one at the moment, which is running for EU applicants, we'll apply that automatically. I know there's the same for kind of Middle Eastern countries as well. So it's definitely worth exploring that scholarships page to see if you need to apply for the scholarship if you don't get one automatically added.
Excellent. And just one final point from me, students that are interested, want to apply, they head over to the Heriot website, like Michael mentioned, whether it's be through the Edinburgh website. How long can one expect in terms of they've applied, they get the turnaround hopefully within 5 days? It might be a little bit longer at the moment. How long can they expect that whole response, that whole process to take? And what accommodation options are there for students if they're not sure where they're going to live and what they're going to do? Do you work with someone? Do you help them with that? Sarah, I think that's more of your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the application process, we're still open for September 25, so we'd recommend getting your applications in. Applications will close mid to end of July, and that allows us time to process everyone's CAS visas and for everyone to meet the unconditional firm deadlines. In terms of accommodation, again, you need to be unconditional firm to get your accommodation with us, but we have got several rooms available. We have got good availability for accommodation for September 26th at the moment, so that's always an option as well. You can apply for that once you have your unconditional firm offer from us, and then we'll get your CAS sorted as well.
trust me, for any student watching, that's pure gold dust to have an opportunity to move in close or on campus and have it all sorted for you. It's great. So thank you everyone for participating. Michael, Lucia, thanks for your time during the presentation. Sarah, thank you as usual for popping on at the end for any admissions related questions. Really appreciate that. If anyone's got any questions or any concerns or any issues relating to this webinar, please point it in the direction of webinars@postgradsolutions.com. Alternatively, there was a message in the chat, which is studywithus@hw.ac.uk. Any questions around the course, any questions around the intricacies of anything that we've discussed today, please put them there. But for now, Michael, Lucia, thanks for your time. Look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in the not too soon future. And if you have any questions, anyone, let us know. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.